Hey everyone, it's Brian from Ultimate Upland, and you are watching the Upland Game Show. It's the show where we talk about the outdoors and ask questions to try and determine the winner of Bird Brain Trivia. And tonight, joining me from the crew of Huntress View, we've got Sarah Honadell and Andrea Rothab. Welcome to the show, everyone! Hear the audience clapping in the background. That's my audience. I don't know who this is.
I got my dog and my cat in here.
Me too.
Yeah, that's my audience too. I think that's everybody's audience now that we're we're all quarantined. Nobody gets any more of an audience. Sarah, you're I think you're officially the furthest west contestant we've had so far. So you know you've already won something.
Excellent. Well, I'm born and raised in Kentucky, but moved to Idaho. So.
Okay. I thought I heard a little bit of a Midwest in you. Us Ohio people, we can feel y'all out.
Yeah.
So you're in Idaho right now, though, right?
Yep, Southeast Idaho, 2.5 hours north of Salt Lake. So we're just in this tiny little town. Nobody knows where we are, but tiny.
Tiny little town. You say southeast?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I've been through that area, man. I mean, I don't know exactly where you are, but that's pretty remote out there.
It is. I mean, we live in a town of like 2,500 people. Pocatello is the closest town, like big town, which is right off of I-15, but we're 2.5 hours north of Salt Lake and about 2.5 hours southwest of Jackson Hole.
Hi.
Pretty centrally located.
I've been through there. I love that part of the country.
Beautiful.
Pretty cool part of the country. And Andrea, you're still hanging out in Missouri, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, West Plains, Missouri. No, it's great here.
Everybody's managing through this wonderful event we're all going through. Y'all been on house arrest?
Kind of, but I mean, I live on a farm like 500 acres, and we have a nice big creek that runs through it. So if it gets warm, you can just go hang out by the creek, and we have all types of hunting and everything here. So it's nice.
Yeah, it's wearing on me, but I've been finding mushrooms. You guys probably have seen some of my feed. Like I've been out mushroom hunting every day, so it's just that's my social distancing. I go out mushroom hunting. I think you guys been Andrew, you've been turkey hunting. What about you, Sarah?
I got mine like 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. So
it's all over.
Yep. I mean, I've got an extra turkey tag, but I'll probably save it till fall.
Well, let me refresh you guys' memory for those of you who haven't seen the show. We're going to ask a series of questions to Sarah and Andrea. The closest answer wins a point. And at the end of the series of questions, we'll determine a winner. The winner is going to get the coveted Ultimate Upland hat, no brighter orange on the face of the earth. Of course, the Ultimate Upland cooler decal, and the $25 Cabela's gift card.
Ooh.
But of course, as we've said in other shows, there's no points for second place. And so we always like to put a little wager on the line, and you guys have come up with something a little different. I've never heard of this before, but I'm all in. I can't wait to get the losers apparently. I think this was Sarah's original idea.
I think it was a combination.
It was a combination.
What's the loser getting, Sarah?
The loser is getting Beer-Chug Burpees.
So
chug a beer and then do 10 burpees.
Yeah.
So 10 burpees, not 20.
10 with no push-ups.
Oh, thank goodness. Oh. I hope I don't lose. I'm really not looking forward to it.
Yeah,
this is one of the. I mean, I honestly can't wait to see how this turns out. I'm actually hoping for a tie to see both of you do it.
Oh no!
Now, obviously, what you guys didn't see from previous shows is anytime there's a deer in the background, you start at -1. So you each have a deer in the background. Luckily, that levels you back to 0.
Yeah.
But I have a pheasant in the background too.
I know that's technically extra credit. Deer, it looks like your deer's a little bit bigger than Andrea, so yeah, it's back to level.
Oh man, well,
that's not even the biggest one in the house. The other one's kind of on the other side of this room.
Don't show it, or you're gonna lose another point.
My biggest one is out in the living room.
But didn't you guys, Andrea, from being out at SHOT Show and talking to me that I'm a bird hunting snob, but we always penalize you deer hunters.
Wow.
If it helps me more, I have also a duck right next to me.
Oh, see, that's in the ballpark.
Um,
And I have an elk in front of me over there with another duck.
Uh-oh, covered up with animals. Don't show that. Nothing. If it doesn't
all
fly,
my
it's definitely
all of mine
negative.
are out in the other room. I should have picked a better room to do this in.
We don't have a
But I
room without
have the
mounts in our
bird
house. We kind of
the
have
bird
too
right
much.
here in the lap.
You do. You get an extra point for the dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Sarah, what's your upland hunting experience? What's the birds you like to hunt? What do you do out there in Idaho? Where did it all start?
Pretty minimal. Most of my upland is really with grouse, and in the fall, we'll, as we're bow hunting, there's a lot of grouse in the forest, and we try to shoot them with our bows, or when we're out bow hunting or just scouting in the evening.
Is that your crew?
That's me and my dog.
That's your dog. So that's who's that?
That's Boone.
He's not an upland dog though?
He's our duck dog. We primarily waterfowl hunt. This was his second year. He's only 2 years old, just over 2 years old. So he's not got a whole lot of experience, but he does really good. We went chucker hunting with him last year, got a couple there. And then we had another dog, a chocolate lab, that he's actually the one that got the pheasant that's in the background.
Okay.
And, but he passed away in January.
Oh.
It was a heartbreaker. It was
that's brutal.
Truly, it was brutal. It's pretty difficult.
So you're looking at upland species mainly as a bonus species to your other hunts, is what you're saying. You're plunking them with bow and arrow.
We're trying. It's really difficult. I mean, a lot of people do it, but I mean, a grouse moves through the woods. They go into trees and sticks and everything else. So
that gets expensive pretty quick too, doesn't it?
What's that?
That gets expensive pretty quick too, doesn't it? Like an arrow is not a cheap thing to sling at a bird.
Well, I just keep a judo tip on it, so it's usually easy to find.
Okay. You don't end up bending the shaft and stuff on it?
Nope.
Well, that black dog's gonna learn how to hunt upland birds, right? You're in the state of Ohio or Idaho. There's like 10 different species you can hunt.
Oh yeah, we've got grouse, pheasant. I mean, just where we live, we've got, I think, dusky grouse, blue grouse, ruffed grouse, sage grouse, which I think are actually closed. We've got partridge, we've got pheasants, we've got chucker. So we got a lot of opportunity, but it's just, we're new here. So we haven't really we've been, elk hunting, deer hunting, duck hunting.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of phasing that into everything else that's going on.
Yeah. And what about you, Andrea? What's your upland hunting experience? You've got the bird dog sitting on your lap. What is it you've done in the uplands?
Really, all that I've hunted as far as upland birds is pheasant and quail, and that's been in Kansas and Iowa, and that's all. We don't have much of that here in southern Missouri. Northern Missouri, it's a little bit better, but I don't have any place there to hunt, so.
Yeah, Missouri isn't known really for a ton of public land, right? Like Idaho's got a load of public land.
Yeah, that's the benefit we have is a lot of public land, but we have a lot of people on the public land. So we've had to find a lot of private land, and we've got several farms that we can hunt pheasants on. But for grouse, it's all public because we're just out in the national forest.
Yep. What do you have a favorite upland bird, Sarah?
I mean, probably grouse, just because that's my experience. Yeah. The pheasants are beautiful. I've just never gotten an opportunity at one. So.
What about you?
The winters really impact the birds here. Like our first year here, the winter was really bad and there just wasn't a lot of birds. Then our second winter, it was really light. There was tons of birds, but we didn't have a place to hunt yet. And then this past winter 18 to 19 was another rough winter. So last year's bird crop was just really low.
What about this winter? What was this last winter?
Well, I was in Florida all winter, so I'm not really sure.
Right. Well, I monitor when you talk about weather, I monitor in the spring, especially, and then going into the summer, I monitor drought conditions. And it looks like the bulk of the state of Idaho is in at least a mild drought right now, which is somewhat good when birds are first hatching, but you need rain after that to get bugs and cover. So
yeah, and that's the thing is we just don't get very much rain here. Like once the snow melts, we just don't get much rain. So the summers, I mean, it just gets so dry.
Yeah.
And
that'll
so
be interesting to see how it turns out for birds.
Yeah.
What about you, Andrea? You got a favorite upland bird?
Just from, pheasant and quail that I've hunted, I'm going to say pheasant. I just think they're a really pretty bird. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to go with pheasant. They're fun to shoot.
All right, good. Well, it's funny that you pick out those non-natives, because the first question has to do with that non-native bird you just cited. So, you guys ready for your first question?
Ready.
Yeah.
Speaking of the ring-necked pheasant, that non-native species you like so much, Andrea, what year was the ring-necked pheasant introduced to the United States?
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna be way off. Oh, okay.
It was introduced in Oregon, by the way. Of course, ring-necked pheasant now pretty much considered to be widespread across almost every state in the country. Some of the eastern states, not so much, but yeah, there's generally speaking, huntable ring-necked pheasant population in almost every state in the country, although it is a non-native species. You guys got your answers?
I do.
Uh-huh.
Let's see them. 1925 versus 1920, Andrea. That pheasant was actually introduced in 1881.
Oh.
Andrea, you won a point right there.
I won that though, right? I'm closest, I guess. So.
Yeah, you're closest. No, it doesn't matter if you go over. You're closest. 1-0. Andrea in the lead. Sarah, you getting nervous yet?
Not yet.
Of course, pheasant was introduced from China. They have some interesting names, especially the guys that are out hunting them a lot. Ditch chickens, depends on how you hunt them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people call them the dragons because they have all that coloration on them. Cool birds. I wish there was a little bit more focus on native species though, just because I don't know. I like native birds.
They're probably a little underrated, huh?
Yeah. I think it's just because of that garish color. I'm sure that the people who originally brought pheasant over from China, they brought them over because they're super cool birds to look at and to hunt. But because they're so garish, they get a lot of attention. A lot of the native birds are more muted in colors, but when you get one in hand, even so Sarah, those bluegrouse they're beautiful birds when you have one in hand. It's just that they don't have those garish colors.
They don't have all the flashy colors.
Yeah. How's you guys' meat supply holding out? Apparently there's a meat drought going on in the country now.
Ours is good. We have 2 full freezers.
We do too. We didn't get a whole lot of wild game meat last year though. We did get a lot of doves, so that's most of what our freezer is full of right now. We pretty well ate most of our deer meat. So
you got enough dove to put in the freezer?
Oh, we had between a lot of people. Yeah, we got quite a bit of dove. We had a good dove season.
Wow.
And
Sarah, I've seen. No, go ahead.
Pretty bad when we have more dove meat than deer. None of us got a deer last year, so it doesn't fill both freezers. But
well, Sarah, you've done you do a lot of big game hunting from what I could tell on your social feed. It looks like you guys aren't hurting for meat at all.
We are not. We've got I got an elk, like a spike elk last year, and a deer, and a bear last spring. We still have some mountain lion from the year before. John got a moose the year before. We've got duck. We've got 2 wild hogs from Florida, turkey,
nice.
Duck.
You're not hurting at all. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay for a while.
We're going to be okay, and we got variety.
Yeah.
Well, a few years ago, I was getting ate up on because I kept seeing people online who were just saying that they hunt for meat, and it was bird hunters primarily, and it always hits me a little wrong, I think, because I always feel like if this is just about food, that you're missing a part of the connection I think that we as hunters have, and so it was grinding on me a little bit. And so I actually did a breakdown. I went to my freezer and I pulled out all of my birds and I weighed them to see how much the average bird weighed. And then I factored in costs associated with hunting. I amortized out like
very expensive.
This is how crazy it drove me, but I'm that kind of person, right? So I wanted to figure out how much a pound of each game bird cost. Just so I could, the article in my mind, I was thinking, birds, if you're just hunting birds, the cost of a wild game bird is so much more expensive than any meat you could ever buy. And if this is just about meat for you and a rational economic sense, you would buy meat, right? Now with big game hunters, it's different because you guys are getting a lot more per pound, you know, you're getting a lot more pound of meat per output of cost.
Yes.
So it changes the scale a little bit. But the next question is going to be interesting for you. So I broke this down, and I'm going to go with pheasant because Andrea likes pheasant. How much per pound does a pheasant, that's whole bird, cost if you were to shoot 80 per year? And the reason I say 80 per year, because almost nobody shoots 80 birds per year, but if you shoot more, it brings the cost down. So I've already kind of hinted that it's pretty expensive, but per pound of pheasant, if you were to shoot 80 a year, what do you think that breakdown was?
Let's see.
Understand that I factored the cost of a dog, the cost of a shotgun, licenses, dog food, travel expenses. I factored it all in.
Can't add that fast.
I know, me too.
I knew it was going to be a challenge. I just wanted to see what off the top of your head you guys were going to come up with, and then we'll see how bad it is.
I'm just going to take a random guess on this one.
Yeah, me too.
It's probably way low.
Sorry, Lexi's just.
80 birds is a lot.
80 birds is, well, for somebody like Andrea that's filling a freezer with Dove, it's a little more.
Well, it wasn't just me.
I don't know very many people that shoot 80 birds a year, but I knew that
Not pheasants.
if I figured it for, so I figured it for 3 different ranges, and you'll see that in a second. But I'm giving somebody the benefit of the doubt that they can actually shoot 80 birds.
I'm changing my answer.
I'm just thinking here. Okay.
I like the level of calculation that's going into this.
I'm really thinking about it, but I don't know. I'm sure I'm way off.
Me too.
All right, you got your answers?
I feel like I'm going to change. Yeah, I got it.
I'll see them. $43 versus $2,400. I'm going to show you the screen. So, you guys can see that.
$11?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wait, 80 birds. Wait, where's
the 80 bird level with all the cost factored in, when you divide it out per pound, it's $11.73 per pound. Although
I did have $24.50 at first and changed my answer.
Oh, that would have been solid. Because most people shoot under 20 birds actually, and as you can see, if you look at going up the chart, the smaller the bird gets, being like a wood breast or a woodcock breast meat, which is a super small bird, which would be like your dove, Andrea. The cost per pound gets insane. So
I think I was kind of going. Where I messed up is I was trying to put like total cost instead of
total cost, and Sarah went by the pound, and you got punished for that. So now it's tied up 1-1.
Shoot.
Andrea, you ever see grouse down there or quail down there in Missouri now?
Yeah, we see quail.
That's what I meant to see. Sarah, you got quail up there, Bobwhite quail, and I think, is it Gamble's up there?
I don't know if we have them in our area. That might be on the western side of the state. I'm
sure. Assuming it probably. I'm trying to think where they are. I'd have to look at the range map. But yeah, I know there are quail up there. I haven't hunted quail in Idaho. I've been through Missouri a lot, but the population of quail apparently has been back on the rise a little bit in Missouri.
Just a little bit, yeah.
But not huge.
Not huge.
The crazy thing about upland birds, Sarah, you say you see them often when you're out hunting, and Andrea, you're seeing them. But the truth is that if you look at the conservation and the trend for most upland species almost across the board in this country, the trend is downward for over 60 years. So for you to even see a bobwhite quail now in Missouri is it's crazy to think, but 60 years ago they were way more prevalent. But that brings us kind of to our next question. I'm going to punish Sarah because she has 10 species and you only have 3 species you can hunt, Andrea, in Missouri. So I'm going to go to those bobwhite quail.
Okay.
Knowing that there's been basically 60 years of declines, according to Partners in Flight, what is the estimated global breeding population of bobwhite quail? Nobody said these questions were going to be easy.
No, they're not.
That's how we make it even, because I know you guys know way too much about hunting. So if I gave you softball questions, it would be like I don't even know how we'd get a winner. So it's always.
I will say on the episode the other day about the trees and the toilet paper, I totally guessed 2,000.
You see,
and the other girls, they were like 125.
Every now and then we hit a question and somebody's like zone, and they're like, "I got this answer now."
Yeah.
Right? But most of the questions don't favor anybody. And really what we're trying to do, I know you're calculating still, Andrea, but what we're trying to do is talk about upland and hunting in a way that offers a different perspective where people are actually learning about the sport. Because that's the one thing I've found about upland hunting compared to a lot of the other sports, because there's so many different species, you never know everything. There's not a day that goes by and with upland hunting, and I dedicate a lot of my time to it, where I don't learn something. And I think that's awesome. And that's kind of where this all came from. But I just so you guys know, I didn't know what the breeding population was either. I knew how many the state of Ohio had left and some of the other states, but I didn't realize what the breeding population was. So I found that out too. You got your answers?
We do. I do.
I do. I'm probably way off, but I took a wild guess.
Good. I like wild guesses. Let's see them.
All right.
2
million.
million.
See, me and Sarah are just so opposite.
Versus 3,000. Well, Andrea, they're not quite that hard to come by. The actual breeding population is 5.8 million. So,
oh my gosh. Okay.
And just for perspective, so they figure that there's been an 85% decline in bobwhite quail since the 60s. So if you just res that number up and you go, okay, well, 85% decline, that means there used to be 40 million bobwhite quail in this country of breeding population. So 5.8 million left still sounds like a big number, especially for Andrea. But,
yeah.
But it's nothing compared to what they were. And with that question and answer, Sarah goes up 2-1. You get
no.
So is the biggest threat just habitat loss? Because I think that's part of what the issue is here with like the sage grouse. And because I know like sage grouse are protected in most of the state here.
Yeah. So you guys have selected areas where you can hunt sage grouse, and that generally is the issue with most upland species, is that it's partly, depends on the species, but it's partly to do with habitat, but it's also to do with farming practices. They totally changed across a lot of the Midwest. As farms consolidate, they buy up land, tear out fence rows, and plant everything. And really, agriculture has been for the recent past, it's been all about how much more you can produce. And that's really impacted any spare cover. So it's habitat. The weird thing is when we talk about upland birds, and the thing that's different with conservation in upland versus conservation for other species is that we always talk about acreage of habitat because nobody wants to talk about bird numbers. And the reason we don't want to talk about bird numbers is because there's no good news in bird numbers. So if organizations like Pheasants Forever were talking about bird numbers, and they're supposedly the gatekeepers for conservation of the species, if you go by bird numbers, you're like, I don't know how successful you guys really are being. Now, there's lots of market forces trending against them, but that's why that all these organizations like to talk about habitat and acres, because if we talk about acres, at least we can indicate that we're on the incline instead of on the decline. So shotguns, I always like to talk about especially when I have women on the show, I want to talk about shotguns and I want to know what it is you're shooting, because I think that really females are a small portion of our sport. If you want to call it a sport, a lot of people hate that word. It's pursuit. Some people prefer, but what shotguns are you shooting? I like for other women out there to know what you guys are shooting and what your experience is. What about you, sir?
I shoot a Browning A5, primarily waterfowl because that's what I'm shooting, what I'm hunting most of the time, but that's my grouse gun in the fall. And then I have a Winchester SX2. That's my turkey gun.
Okay. 12 gauge?
Yeah.
And what about you, Andrea?
I have 2 Browning Maxes 12 gauge. I have one that's camo that I use for like waterfowl and turkey hunting. And then I have like a wood, stock or whatever one that I use for upland or pheasant hunting. Yeah.
Well, you guys, you guys carrying those big cannons. I primarily carry 20 gauge. Almost everybody knows that. My little 20 gauge in comparison to you guys is, I'm going to show you there's my standard 2 3/4 inch 20 gauge shell. You have a size shot you like to use specifically for upland, Sarah? You got anything shot wise that you like to use?
I use what John puts in my gun or what he gives me. So, because again, I just don't do it that much. And, for the grouse, it's mostly bow hunting because that's the season that we're in. When we're looking for elk is when we're finding grouse.
I'm showing you just a quick graphic to show most upland hunters, they shoot anywhere from number 4 to number 9. That gives you an idea of what an ounce of number 4 versus an ounce of number 9 looks like. For those of you, a lot of people who aren't around shotgunning and upland hunting don't know that these things aren't solid bullets. They think that, they don't know, they think that these are solid bullets. They don't realize that they're full of little
pellets.
Yeah. That's crazy. I get that question. What about you, Andrea? You have a specific load you like better than any?
I usually use 6-shot.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because that's what the next question is. This is the number 6-shot, 2 3/4 inch 20 gauge shell. It has 1 ounce of shot in it. Approximately how many pellets are in 1 ounce of number 6 shot?
Okay, let's see here. Okay.
Should have paid attention to that graphic.
Could you count? I put those up as a teaser. Can you count that fast? I'm like, if you just go back to the video, it'll show you, or just rewind a little bit. It'll show you exactly.
Yeah, let's prove. Well, I have mine. I hope I'm close.
Wait till Sarah's ready. Is she ready?
I'm ready.
All right, Sarah, what do you got? 300, 100. Oh, this is close. But there are approximately 232 number 6 pellets in an ounce. I believe that again goes to Sarah. So, what's the score?
3-1. I might as well just open this now.
It's getting warm on the side. Just so you know, it's the last question, which
oh no. Well,
let's talk about hunting gear. You guys have a go-to must-have piece of gear. What's your favorite piece of upland gear outside of the gun? Not even upland, hunting in general. I'm kind of a gear guy. I like to I like what I like, whether it's for hunting or not. I'm purpose-driven, so I want to have whatever feels best on me, I guess. But I'm curious, Sarah, you got a go-to piece of hunting equipment that just you can't do without?
I'm definitely not a brand snob. I think a good pair of boots just takes you everywhere. And I wear a pair of Danner Wayfinders that I got them last year and wore them all through elk season, deer season, antelope hunting, hiking through Florida's, down there in Palmettos and everything. They're super comfortable. I love them. And I just wear them out, to hike, bear baits and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'd say definitely a good pair of boots. And
boots are real high on my list too, but I go through them pretty quickly. Like I'm not I don't hang with the same boot. I'm not, although there are some boots I've gotten in the past that I'm like, man, I wish I had 12 pairs of those.
Yeah, I actually bought another pair of Danners at Christmas just in case they stop selling them.
100%. Great idea. Good. That is a good pro tip right there for anybody. Like that is 100%. What about you, Andrea? You got a specific piece of gear that you can't do without?
Yeah, I really, really like the First Light fingerless gloves, the merino wool fingerless gloves. And I use them not just for upland hunting, but for deer hunting. I mean, everything. I use them year round. So I like that you can still feel, you know, the trigger and everything, but your fingers are still warm. I just really like those.
Yeah, I actually bought those on her recommendation, and they're pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm down for a good pair of gloves. One thing we're talking about boots, and this is a big one for me. I go waterproof, but I go light. And so I started thinking about that going, all right, you know, there's one product out there that kind of goes across all brands, regardless of who makes the boot. If they've got a Gore-Tex liner, that means they're waterproof. There are some alternates to that, but the truth is that the bulk of boots right now, if they're waterproof, are going to have a Gore-Tex liner. And it's something that it's one thing that I'm like, man, that is the best thing they ever came up with. Because otherwise boots would all be these heavy, you know, rubberized or leather with as much stuff as you can smear on it. And so I like those Gore-Tex liners. And that brings us to our final question. What year was Gore-Tex invented?
Oh, God.
Man, I don't know.
It was actually co-invented by a father and son, Wilbur L. Gore and Robert. That's his son, Robert W. Gore. I can't imagine how much those guys are worth right now, because I can just think of how much stuff Gore-Tex is in across the outdoor space. It's amazing.
Yeah, I have my answer, but
Me too. It's way wrong, I'm sure.
All right, let's see them. 1980 versus 1986. Well, Gore-Tex was actually invented in 1969. Sarah, a full-on smackdown.
Again. No.
Sarah with a 4-1 smackdown wins the Upland hat, wins the Upland sticker, and the Cabela's gift card. Listen, I gotta admit, I mean, so, you know, that set of questions that I put you guys through was probably the hardest set of questions, because I was afraid that you two were going to like score big on them. So I had to go like difficulty level, like way up there, even though I know you guys don't do a ton of upland hunting like me. I had to make sure that you didn't answer every question and make me look bad. But I think we've now come to the part that everybody's really been waiting for.
Not me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Somebody wanted to see, I mean, I think we all wanted to see this punishment you guys came up with. So let her rip, Andrea, whenever you're ready. What are we calling this again?
The Beer-Chug Burpees.
Beer-Chug Burpees. But, okay, so I'm letting you guys pick. Do I chug the Busch beer or do I chug the Modelo? Totally up to y'all.
Call it, Sarah.
If it was me, I'd take the Modelo. Busch is just nasty.
You're being nice. All right.
All right. Give me a minute to open it. Give me a minute. I made sure they sit out for a little while because I don't want brain freeze. It's still pretty cold though. Oh. I'm probably going to spill it all over me. I'm not a chugger. And look, there's like condensation like coming out of it. It's still really cold.
You're not a chugger. You're a chugger now.
I'm a sipper. Okay.
Cheers.
All right, I'll try. If I can quit laughing, okay. I have to take a little break. Oh my God.
all professional chuggers know you pour it into a glass first. You don't chug it out of the bottle.
Well, I wasn't thinking ahead. Obviously, I'm not a chugger, so okay.
I don't know how this is going to feel getting shook up, but I can't wait to see.
There's this door right behind me. There's a bathroom right there, so if I gotta go puke.
No, you're not allowed to leave the camera.
Well, you can see me in there. So, chug. Okay. Like, do I gotta chug the whole thing?
Yes. You're almost done.
Yeah, I mean, you got to commit to it at this point.
Okay.
Well, then people didn't come to see you chug half a beer, for God's sake.
Okay. See, I'm terrible at this.
I'd like to think that people actually came to like hear the questions and be interested in the trivia, but quite frankly, I think they may have just come to watch you chug a beer.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh no.
Mm.
Oh yeah, down the hatch.
Oh, I thought I had it.
I'm gonna have to fast forward this for everybody. Obviously, we're gonna make it look way better than that. Okay, here go the
There you
burpees.
go.
Got these bad boys out.
Oh, can you see me?
Oh yeah.
All right. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh my gosh. 9, 10.
Bravo.
I hope that was
Best show ever.
You gotta make everybody else do that from now on.
I got to tell you, I think you guys have probably started something. This is probably the new favorite punishment, although I think that probably people are going to opt for something a little less difficult. The burpees are going to go like, let's chug a beer and do some jumping jacks.
Look, I was all for just burpees, and then she wanted to shotgun beers.
I know.
I think this is shotgunning beers. I think first. Of course, I don't even know how to do that, so that would have
I
been
think
awesome.
it was a brilliant invention. Definitely something that we're going to look forward to in future episodes. I can't thank you guys enough for coming on and talking about upland hunting and the outdoors. Absolutely awesome episode, and you guys are great sports to come play along. And at least Sarah got some swag out of it, and you got a stomach ache.
Exercise and a stomach ache.
That's all right.
So you got anything to plug, Andrea? Anything coming up for Huntress View? What's going on?
Oh, let's see. Well, there's a couple of new partnerships that I can't say anything about just yet. Other than that,
So that would be a no.
I'm still talking to these people, so I'm waiting until we get everything finalized. But there's a couple of pretty exciting new partnerships that I don't even think I've told Sarah about yet. So,
No. But we do have 2 new ones still, though: the Black Widow and BASEMAP.
Yeah.
So those are 2 of our newest partners.
BASEMAP, what do those guys do?
That's the mapping app, BASEMAP Hunt and Fish.
Oh, is that
That's why check it
those are the guys who've come out with something a little bit different than Onyx, kind of some say the upgrade to Onyx, I guess, if you will.
I prefer it. I've been using it for a year and a half, maybe. I mean, their maps just are better quality. They've got a lot more features. They do weekly giveaways. I think for myself personally, since we hunt in more than one state, it's $20 for a year for all 50 states.
Versus $100.
So from a cost perspective, it's super inexpensive, but I think the quality of it is far beyond Onyx. And I think Onyx has a lead just because it's been out longer, but I think as more people are learning about BASEMAP, it's definitely making a name for itself. So
be sure to check that out. What about you, Sarah? You got anything besides Huntress View to plug in your life?
No, I mean, I'm just kind of a stay-at-home dog mom for now. I work with Andrea a lot on the Huntress View stuff. I do also do some work for BASEMAP, just some freelance writing for them, as well as some writing work for Deercast, which is the Drury Outdoors app. So check those guys out. There's a lot of good content on both.
Weren't you making jewelry or something too?
What's that?
Can you
Oh, yes. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I've got a page, Arrow Ridge Creation. So I make antler jewelry. Trying to get into just some more other crafty type things as, you know, I'm unemployed right now. I was laid off from my job of 15 years in January. So just looking at some other options for, you know, this kind of weird time when no one is hiring.
Yeah.
So if you know anybody in the marketing realm that's looking for somebody, I'm your girl.
I'm looking for somebody. I just don't pay any money.
Okay, that you can't do that.
Well, Sarah, where can we? Would you like people to find you on social media, website? What do you got?
Absolutely. Instagram's probably my biggest social media channel where I post most of the time. It's Waddy Sarah, WADDYSARAH. It's a public page, so just follow, and I usually try to follow back. So.
Okay, cool. And what about you, Andrea? You want people to find you online?
Sure. Instagram is at Andrea Rothove, ROTHOVE, and also at Huntress View. And I just thought of something, by the way, Sarah, I am going to bring back the annual arrow a day thing in August.
Awesome.
Yeah. So what that is, have you heard it? Have you seen that on Huntress View?
Arrow a day. Isn't that where you guys sling an arrow a day? Isn't that like where you shoot an arrow a day? You're trying to promote people getting out there and stick and stringing it?
Yes, we do that every August. This will be the 6th annual one that we've had. You can tell the beer's kicking in.
So it happens when you exercise and pound beers.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. Anyways, yeah, so we challenge our followers to shoot at least an arrow a day the whole month of August, because most state seasons open in September. So we just want to make sure people are practicing, you know, because it is difficult to, you know, shoot a deer with a bow. And there's a lot of people, you'd be surprised, that just buy a bow from the archery shop and think that it's okay to go hunt like a week later, honestly. And you really have to practice.
I could talk a lot about the fact of how standard outdoors media has made it seem really easy to do kind of what you guys do and what I do, and how what we generally do in the outdoors is hard to really encompass in a half-hour television show. As you can see, it took us longer than a half hour to do a 5-question trivia show. So, you know, yeah, practice is good for sure. We should try and plan a time this fall to get together and do some upland hunting. I'm always out that way, Sarah, somewhere. And Andrea, I know we've talked about it, so maybe we can get something on the schedule. I'd love to have you guys come along. Andrea, bring that dog of yours. We're going to teach you how to hunt.
She's so gun shy. I'll have to really work with her beforehand.
I'll message you afterwards, and I'll tell you how to get her over the hump on it, or at least start her that way. It's a slow process, but most dogs can overcome that. Some of them it's pretty deeply ingrained, but most dogs you can get over the hump. So I'll DM you afterwards, and we can talk about it, because it'd be a good case study for me. But I think it'd be great for you to have a hunting dog for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And anybody out there, if you're watching the show, you like what you've seen, make sure you smash that subscribe button down there. That would certainly help us. And you can find us on all social media, Ultimate Upland all the time. Andrea, Sarah, great episode. Thanks again. And
good time.
I can't wait until we do the rematch.
Next